Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 3.5 Book Club, the show where we talk about all things third edition and 3.5. I'm your co host, Cliff, and today I'm joined with my other co hosts, Justin,
What's up? What's up?
Nason,
Hello.
and Steve.
Hey, how's it
You're missing a co-host, actually.
Yeah, we're gonna pick back up today with the 3.5 handbook. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. But last time we got through character creation and we got a little bit into the class section. I think we spent a lot of time talking about the Ranger because there was a lot to say about the Ranger. Did you guys have anything that kind of jumped out at you that we didn't really get to cover last time, or kind of anything you think we should have touched on more?
Any other class? Because Nason skipped right ahead in the book and just went straight to Ranger.
There was points that had to be made about Ranger that were important. You have to get them out of the way first. You have to get the cons out of the way first. And Ranger as a whole is a con.
I don't think you do. I think it's literally in order. You just go in alphabetical order from Barbarian to Wizard.
From R to no, there's other classes like Artificer and Zozomancer.
The Zozomancer. Every single time I run a game, there's always some person who Zozomancer. Like, damn. But I do think that you were really onto something there, because I think that there is more to say about the Ranger than there is at almost any other class in this book, other than maybe the Bard.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah. I mean, you guys also brought some good points, because I was looking at, thinking about the 3.0 version, was kind of what was stuck in my mind. And when you look at the revamp, there are some things added that kind of help, but not even in comparison to some of these other classes.
You know how many middling Rangers I played because I just wanted a pet?
Yeah, but you could be a wizard with a pet.
Pets and wizard are useless.
I mean, being a wizard isn't. Wait, that's impossible because you can cast enlarge. So you could be like, yeah, you cast polymorph on your familiar.
Yeah, do you know how what it costs to redo a familiar if your familiar dies?
Oh yeah,
I guess ridiculous.
And then you get a DM who actually makes you use spell components, and then it becomes super crunchy, and it's not even fun anymore.
No, that's even better, because then you just pick up animate dead, and then you only polymorph the dead, and you never use your familiar for anything. You just leave them at home.
Yeah. No, it's actually one of the things, I just, when I made my rich character, I have a familiar, and I actually wish I would have took one of the alternate features that actually removes the familiar to give you more benefits to other things.
That's true. So,
I just find them as a bad option.
That's why he keeps leaving his familiar behind.
Are we starting off with Druid?
Well, I wanted to. We were talking about familiars, and I thought that was a good segue into the Druid, because the Druid in 3.5 is just insane. Like, look at this. Look at it. And for those of you following along at home, we're on table 3.8. That's page 35 of the PDF. Druids are so flippin' insane in this game, and they get animal companions, and their animal companions are really flippin' good. Like, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at some of these animal companions. All right, bonus hit die. After you get to third level, they get 2 bonus hit die, goes up to 12. Strength adjustments, bonus tricks. They get tricks they can do. They get special, they get evasion, they get multi-attack, they get improved evasion, which is amazing. And look at some of this. Like 4th level. You're looking at 4th level. You're running around with dire weasels and cheetahs and crocodiles.
I think an important part of that, though, we should also look at the companion rule, because that's kind of where the drawback is, right? Because it's not just like you lose components, you lose experience. And losing too much experience in 3.0, 3.5 is death. Is like
if they die, yeah.
Yeah. So like, don't these pets have higher XP pools also as they get bigger? So in turn you're losing more XP. Like having a giant squid would be phenomenal, or Tyrannosaurus Rex, but if like some giant like treats it like a Toy Story toy and breaks its arms off, you're like, oh, okay, I feel weak. I feel weak. I feel real weak.
All I did was picture Sid with Rex from Toy Story.
Oh yeah, completely. If that situation burns out, like you're a wizard, you just lost Fireball possibly or something. You know what I mean? You're just like, what? What do you mean I can't cast Fireball?
Yeah, but here's the druid. Like compared when you look at the druid animal companions compared to like the wizard's familiars, like
aren't they treated with
the
the same?
No, like the detrimentals are the same. Like, oh, I'll lose experience. The difference is though, is the wizard one does not get anything to help it live. Like my animal companion, I think in our thing, or my familiar has like 10 HP.
Well,
it's a bird.
Well, my thing isn't that. Mine isn't the fact that it's a chameleon, the companion or the familiar. It's the fact that they both you lose XP equivalent to like a percentage or a certain amount equal to the creature's, whatever creature it is, XP pool, right? So like,
yeah,
a familiar is going to have a smaller XP pool, while a companion is going to be like, once again, something huge. It is true, like a druid has more things to keep it alive, but I mean, any class that gets a companion is kind of in that situation.
Yeah, the also thing is, though, is the druid, I think, also gets spells that he can use to heal his pet if it's injured.
Do they? I think can cast. I think he just cast cure wounds on him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they can just cast a cure spell, like a healing spell. They have the ability to keep them, but also, like I said, they're getting extra hit die. They're getting things that keep them alive. The creatures they also have, like when you get to like crocodile, they have natural armor. They have a higher hit class, hit die, like ACs and things like that.
Yeah, and that's not even counting like the extra feats that you can get in like the player's handbook too, that make your animal companions stronger. And the thing is, that's just one aspect of the druid. That's just one thing that they can do. So like, the animal companion that's like as strong as they are or stronger, and they get, look at all this stuff. They can turn into elementals.
Yeah. Oh, wild shape is
like they can get extra, like if you look in the epic level handbook, there are feats in there that are like, well, you're epic level now, you can turn into a colossal elemental that's the size of a mountain.
Oh, or mythical creatures in there, because there's a feat for that. Oh no, I with taking away the animal companion, I think druids are phenomenal in 3.5. I think wild shape's amazing. If anything, I want more charges of wild shape. I don't know, like that's
I think
it's cool. Who cares about spells?
Yeah, I think one thing with the animal companion though is like it loses its effectiveness probably a little bit later on, but early level it's super helpful. In sustainability and like actually being helpful. But I'm also not sure, there might even be a list that we're not seeing. You get up, like say you played epic levels, that you're probably going to have the option of picking up an epic level companion.
Well, yeah, but like I mean, equivalent to the adventure. Your creature is never out stronger than the adventure or your other companion. So like it's like one of those things you'd be like,
no.
There's always a chance that your pet might be the one that bites the dust, which you'd want your companion, if anyone, to bite the dust before one of your allies, you would think, in some scenarios. Not all scenarios.
Depends.
Not all scenarios. It depends. It really depends.
I mean, have you played with Nason?
Yeah, I would say my companion is usually my weapon. And you guys will usually let me sacrifice it before like a shoe. But that's...
I mean, I tried to murder your companions in the game before.
Yeah, everybody's always trying to murder my companions.
What does a campaign look like when you're an epic level druid who can turn into an elemental the size of a house? Like, what's the what are you fighting?
Gods.
Well, no, you're fighting. Well, that's the
giant
thing
baby fetus.
You're probably fighting like powerful casters who can cast like bound elemental or bind elemental or something. People who can do things against it. Like there's people who are going to be more adept to taking care of those things. I mean, like, it doesn't have to be just gods. There are people who are just equally as powerful.
Well, but most people, when they think epic level, like the majority of people think when they think epic level, that's the think of. Most people probably haven't ever actually even looked at the epic level handbook.
Oh yeah, true.
It's pretty insane.
I have never read said book.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy.
But
the monster manual, like the epic monsters, are ridiculous.
I mean, even just to get back on what the druid has outside of just wild shape itself, which we all agree is absolutely phenomenal. You get down to a woodland stride. Woodland stride is amazing. Like, it's just good. It's, hey, I'm able to move through this terrain as it wasn't there. And the many times that you end up in the woods and you wish you could just go in a straight line, think about that. Just, oh man, where's all these dangers of spiders, goblins, evil treants, and all this? No, I'm gonna go in a straight line. I'm not.
I mean,
I'm not worried about the
Oh
road.
yeah.
Straight line.
and then you're getting all that, but we're not even touching the fact that they also have all their spells that they get.
One of which is Shillelagh at first level, which is a 2d6 weapon at first level that they were proficient with. And also like on Woodland Stride there, this is another thing with like the Druid and the Ranger. I really feel like Pathfinder kind of got them right. Like we're going in a really good direction here, but Pathfinder really perfected them. Whereas with the Ranger and Pathfinder, you get to choose your terrain. Like it's not just woods. It can be urban, it can be underground, it can be ocean, it can be, whatever it is, and you get to choose that.
Was that was not introduced in 3.3 or 3.5 at all?
I don't think so. I mean, let's go back and look at.
I know
It's a part of 5, of course.
Well, there's some of those things where there's alternate class rules that came out later, and I know there is an alternate thing to make an urban druid and things like that did come out in 3.5.
Yeah, the Player's Handbook 2 was really a game changer. So I'm looking here. I'm not seeing a whole lot of
Cliff, I just want to say that these are source books for a tabletop RPG. All of them are game changers.
Oh, but he'll be here all week, fellas. Actually, he won't. He'll only be here for
just once a week, for like
Just
2
once a
hours.
No, it doesn't look track while they. No. To the best of my knowledge, that was put in Pathfinder, and Pathfinder just, I mean, really, like, people call Pathfinder 3.75 or 3.5 fixed, and I agree with that in a lot of ways. Like there are a lot of things that Pathfinder did that just really upped the ante. I might have talked about it with the Ranger last time, where you get to, like, in Pathfinder, you get to actually kind of scale your favorite enemies, and you get to choose what to add where. Whereas here, you just kind of, you pick one, and that's kind of it. And you can pick additional ones later, but there's, like, the bonus just isn't that much.
In Pathfinder, I know this is a D&D podcast, but in Pathfinder, what was the process to change your favorite ending? Because I like the idea of changing it, but I feel like to justify that, I imagine there is some conditions or something like that. Because I guess I'm just saying it wouldn't make sense very much to, like, willy-nilly change it. So I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, so in Pathfinder, and it looks like that might have actually been quasi implemented here in 3.5, but in Pathfinder, it's like, let's say you choose goblins or goblinoids at first level, you get a +2. Then you get to level 5 or whatever when you get your second favorite enemy. Well, you can add a +2 on top of that, or you can add a +2 to something else, and then it just keeps going like that. So if you wanted to, stack those, you can just keep on stacking. But you also, you could space it out. And I think actually in Pathfinder, your first one stacks no matter what, and then your second, third, and fourth, you can just kind of, put where you want. So definitely a lot more customization in Pathfinder. And Pathfinder also did they did a lot more kind of combat feats and a lot more like combat styles that you could do. So it's not just like melee or ranged. It can be like sword and shield. It can be two-handed. It can be, all these different things. So I really do think that, like, I know we keep going back to the Ranger, but I mean, like, the evolution from the 3.0 Ranger to the Pathfinder Ranger is insane.
I feel like it's because there's a want there, though, right? Because people knew that it needed more, because the Ranger fantasy even needed more. Like, anything can be made with RP. So it's hard for me to get behind the class itself mechanically when people know there's things lacking there. And so yeah, there was definitely room for an evolution, and it evolved quickly and well. It did.
Absolutely. And we're kind of coming up on the rogue here. And Justin,
True.
I want to get your thoughts on this because you are playing a rogue in our current 3.5 game that we're doing. So I don't, what do you think about the rogue? Like, what's the actual lived experience of the rogue in 3.5 in your experience?
So I never, like, when I was younger and I was originally playing 3.5, I never really played the rogues. Like, to be honest, I wasn't kidding when I said, you know how many middling rangers I played just because of a certain book series that I was obsessed with when I was 13. But so far playing a rogue, my biggest complaint is actually, which I haven't had too many opportunities, it's just conditional, right, to really mess with some of the, like, you see trap finding and trap sense and stuff like that. I haven't been playing with this character too long, and it's conditional, so I can't comment on that too much. But the skill is being so broad, like there's just so many skills that being more of a, I'm not saying I'm a more experienced 5e player, but having played it more recently, going back in time, I was like, gosh, Jesus, whoa, what? Okay, like I could pass this test, you failed this test, and now you successfully hid, but you accidentally kicked the pebble and everybody fucking kills you. Yeah, that type of thing. But so I think that's the biggest takeaway from like the 5-ish sessions that I've played so far, is that there's a little bit more of calculation, like risk reward calculation, because it's kind of like when I was talking about confirming your critical. Sometimes when you succeed on one roll and then you roll the next one, you're like, oh, it's almost killjoy. That's what I'm looking for. It's almost a killjoy there, but yeah.
Yeah, confirming criticals is a weird thing, and like I get why it's there in 3.5, at least for not natural 20s. But I feel like natural 20s are natural 20s no matter what. But yeah, it really does kind of suck when you hit that range and then you don't critical. But I think there's a feat. It's not improved critical, but it's I think there's another feat that you can take that like adds +4 to your confirm check.
Yeah. It's Keen. You can take Keen. Oh wait, is it Keen? Is it Keen?
No, Keen's Keen and confirm critical, and like that's another thing in 3.5, Keen and confirm critical stack. So you can, you can. It's not as bad as 3.0 when you could get like a 12 to 20 critical fairly easily. But you can still get like a 17 to 20, or a 16 to 20 critical fairly easily, and in upper level 3.5.
Definitely. No, but I am curious to. I'm excited to expand. I'm excited to continue playing my rogue fighter hybrid. Unfortunately, I had to multi-class so I could have a little bit more combat ability, because sometimes our party just doesn't show up, so you're fighting things by yourself.
I find that completely wrong, because my outlook is rogues are completely broken in 3.5. They have all the skills, they have all the best abilities. Evasion's insane, uncanny dodge is insane, and I know you're like, I need
especially at high levels.
Yeah, and you're like, I know you're like, I need to multi-class into a fighter so I can more damage. Since when? Do you not see this? This is sneak attack. What level are you? 4 or 5? Like, that's 3d6. That's more than most people's health pool.
It's because somebody just keeps opening damn doors and there's no chance to do anything. It's just like, roll initiative. All right, fuck.
That's not true. That's not true. That's why you have like hiding abilities. That's what makes rogue so crazy, is that you could be like, well, I'm gonna take off around this corner and then hide, and they're like, okay, well, I'm hiding behind this barrel. They come around the corner, sneak attack. I'm gonna run off again and do it. Like, rogues are a strategic game plan, right? You gotta you can run in, dash out, run in, dash out.
You're right, but I've never played a rogue where my companions have let me do what you just described.
Oh,
you described a video game strategy because you have companions So like if you want to kite, if you want to hide, that type of stuff, a lot of times it just doesn't. And that wasn't a jab at you guys. I play with multiple people, but like it often doesn't work out unless I have to like, you know.
I mean, I feel also rogues are like one of the craftier classes that can get away though. Like, and don't rogues have like I know that's something more 5e where they can disengage in combat, but isn't that something they can have like dash? They can dash as a bonus action in 3.5.
Not in 3.5, but yeah, that like you're definitely touching on something there where the rogue is flipping amazing if the party
allows
with them. Like you have to set the rogue up. The rogue cannot do this stuff unless the party sets the rogue up. And like that's the whole thing. Like if the party doesn't do that, then the rogue's just kind of sitting over there like, all right, I'm just kind of a crappy fighter now. But like if you set the rogue up, if you kind of use those pack tactics, and specifically the I think it was the Book of Nine Swords that introduced like those like coordination feats, where like if multiple people had them, like I know we have those in Starfinder now, but like the coordination feats where, you know, like different people can you know have the same feat and work together and do all this stuff. Like, yeah, man, if you set the rogue up, stuff gets insane.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's true. I just feel like I've seen so many single-handed rogues do so much damage just from being on the sideline, being like, I'm just gonna sit here and watch, and then just being like, I'm gonna blow this target up.
Yeah, but a lot of that comes from the rogue getting the chance to actually have the things set up to their advantage. Because, like, yeah, 3.5, they don't have the ability to hide as a bonus action and things like that during combat. So yeah, if they get a chance to set up, like set everything up, like, oh, I'm gonna stealth and get into position and wait for this target. You know, rogue can explode that.
And I might get more opportunities to do something like that. Like I mean, I just mentioned that I played like 4 or 5 sessions with this.
My other thing is
guy so far.
Don't you get you get sneak attack? I know, of course, if the target's suspecting, but is it not during flanking or something like that also that you get?
Yeah, you get.
It's during flanking.
You get sneak attacks during flanking, and this was something that our Justin 2, just number 2, used to do. Both our Justins are rogues in this case. Justin number 2, he had what's called a Kapesh, and he took like this specific weapon focus, exotic weapon focus to use this Kapesh, and a Kapesh gave you a +4 bonus to your trip attack attempts. And in 3.5, when you trip, then you get a free sneak attack as the person is tripping, like as they're being tripped. So if you trip them, they're falling, they're prone, you get a free sneak attack.
Yep.
So
and that's
brilliant.
And that's what I'm saying, is that like I feel like I guess that's a certain niche situation, but I feel like when you start implementing those kind of things, when you understand like, oh, that's a trick, this is what trick does, or when you start using game mechanics that people don't usually use, right? Like the guarded step or the dodge action. Like people don't really look into like all those bull rush maneuvers. They're like, charge, that's what I want. Like when you look, like 3.5 has the from above damage multiplier. Like they don't have that in 5e anymore. Like that's not something that's in all editions. Where you like, oh, well, if you're coming from the sky, you get like a ×4 crit multipliers and crazy because you're falling.
Yeah, or charging with the lance.
Exactly. So it's one of those weird things that like all rogues, anyone can trip anyone. So I feel like a rogue who's like, oh, I know how to use a trip with a Kapesh of all things. You did it with a whip even. Like you can become a menace and be like, oh, trick attack. AOOs were based off of your dex bonus, I think, weren't they? And 3.5, is that correct?
What's where based on your dex?
Your attack of opportunities, because don't you get more than one?
Combat reflexes, yeah.
Yeah, because that's really what breaks it, I guess, because no one else is doing that during their attack of opportunity. They're not like, flurry of blows isn't even that good. Sneak attack's just flat damage, and you're just doing it every multiple times, sometimes multiple times around.
Yeah, flurry of blows is kind of weird, but like, there was this famous build back in the day that was a half ogre that used a spiked chain. and Spike Chain gives you, I forgot if it was a 10 or a 15-foot reach. So like this half ogre, you're a half ogre, so you already have reach, and then you have this like 15-foot reach. So every time somebody comes up to you, you get 3 attacks of opportunity on them, and then you disengage, jump back as far as you can, and then
Yeah, that's brilliant. Like I get how that's breaking. Like that's combat breaking in its own way because it's annoying, and then the DM has to work around it. But
unless you get to a cliff and you just back yourself off a cliff.
yeah, but then you have like all sorts of roguish stuff to get down the cliff, though.
That is true.
That's the problem. Like,
I think right
you have
now
every
also with,
skill in the game.
you know, one thing Justin was talking about, you know, where he's at with it. He's also, you know, when you're lower level rogue, you know, you don't have all the extra feats and stuff to help boost all that. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
you kind of
true.
got to work with, you know, the circumstances.
I kind of get where that is, but like I mean, you're talking about like even on the screen right now, you see sorcerer. The rogue still sits above these caster classes from level 1 to 10, and he's still like they're still better off than cotton tissue band-aid right here. Like, what is he doing?
I mean, we're looking at the photo of Hennett, and Hennett is just a weird guy. He's just a weird flipping dude.
I feel for
He looks
him
like a Final Fantasy character.
he is very upset that he's like, I have such a limited spell slots. I'm having such a bad time right now.
But man, he has a great market in belts.
So
I made of belts.
while we're here, I would like to talk about sorcerers for 1 second because I don't think I understand how sorcerers are supposed to be played. They're not really casters, right? Because like
They are.
but they can't really cast all. They can't. They have a limited spell slots compared to a wizard.
But they also don't have to ready their spells. They don't have to sit down and
But
be like,
you still don't get to cast. How many spells can you cast as a? How many spells you get to cast as a sorcerer? 6 for every level up to level 20, right?
Yeah. You get when you max out.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, it's the theoretical. So like wizards can learn spells from scrolls, they can learn spells from other places, they can do all this other stuff. So like, yeah, if you're a wizard, then you get to learn a lot more spells, but you hear them in advance. Whereas with a sorcerer, you don't look like with a sorcerer, you're getting 4 spells at level 1, 3 plus your charisma modifier. Because so, you know, that's 4 spells that you can cast per day. You don't have to prepare them in advance, so you can take like a combat spell and, you know, a few other spells, and you can just mix and match as you need. I mean, like
that was actually my mistake. I didn't realize that from 3.5 to 5e, they like took all the sorcerer spells away. Like they have absolutely no spell slots.
Although in 5e's defense, and this was your game, Nason, your Ravnica game that you ran where I played Niv Mizzet, like, dude, I loved it.
Yeah?
I loved him so much. It was just so insane to play a sorcerer in 5e. It was crazy.
Is it so my question is though, is it that you're supposed to be like you have the spell slots here to be a caster? I understand that. It's just in 5e and you're playing Niv Mizzet, like did you not feel like you didn't have the spells to cast sometimes?
No, I absolutely did. Like you have to use them smartly. You know, you can't just go around, you know, be like, I'm gonna cast you know, my highest level spell every single turn.
Well, one thing they gave in 5e compared to, you know, 3.5 in 5e was that sorcerers can recover spells in a short rest. I think.
No, they can use their meta magic points to recover spells.
Recover. Yeah, it's something that they had to help recover spells.
Yeah, but it's not a good ratio. Like you still end up with more spells using a 3.5. Like this 3.5 chart makes so much more sense to me. Just as a whole, I don't understand why it went to what it went to, but that's just at a base look, because this was against this 3.5 book, so this is the post updated, right? Or is this the 3.
The updated ones. And like with 5e, you also have cantrips, which are like
okay,
kind of meh. You know, like they're really good, but I don't think they should be that good. But
Well, what is it? In 5e, cantrips don't count. Like, you can cast any number of cantrips you want. There's no limit.
yeah, and there's like
They don't use it per day at all.
There's one, I think it's like poison spray, the cantrip, where it's
What?
D12.
Yeah,
in
it's
a cone.
great axe. It's great axe. It's great axe
crazy.
damage in a cone. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's crazy.
It's just so insane. Like, and sorcerers don't have that, but what they do have, this is really what I think like a lot of people really don't get about Magic at 3.5 is sorcerers and wizards need to be like making wands and scrolls and potions and stuff. Like, it's, if you do that, you're gonna have plenty of spells. You're gonna have plenty of stuff to do. Yeah, it's gonna cost you some experience, but I mean, you're gonna be way ahead of the game.
Well, and I feel like that's one
Yeah.
of those things also that aren't really talked about in 3.5 is that there's a lot of crafting feats, craft wondrous item, craft, this or that. They are really awesome items. It's just, most people don't really think, it even says it right there, such as craft. Like, you get those
Yeah.
skills
I
baseline for
think-
those casters, right?
Yeah, and what the thing is, in 3.5, a lot of people don't want to craft. It's because you lose. It's so much experience to craft. So you get a lot of people who don't. Where I think in like Pathfinder, they made things that changed it where you didn't have to lose as much like experience and stuff like that. And, they fixed it, changed it around some.
That is true, and that's a house rule that I kind of proposed earlier on, being that if you're crafting and you want to craft, you can spend gold up to the experience value in order to make that. So like if it costs 100 gold and 20 experience, then you could just spend 120 gold. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually like how it works in I think the Pathfinder. I think when they changed it, that's how it works. Like you do that plus like the cost of the materials to do so.
Yeah, spending experience that's pretty dumb. I mean, that's just pretty flipping dumb. It's like, that's like I just don't think that that's a well implemented rule. And I kind of get, the gist behind it. Like, you're creating something and you're creating this powerful thing and it's going to help you get more experience and blah blah blah. But I don't know, man. I just really like, experience is hard to come by, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you like once again, as a spellcaster, you don't want to sack experience and put yourself on a chance of loot. Like, say you sack some experience, and then the next time you're out, your familiar dies. You just drop the level, you lose access to spells.
Or the item you just made.
Yeah.
Well, and that's,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel, and it's just a weird concept because wasn't that something that was adopted from previous editions of D&D where you sacrifice experience to craft items, or was that for like blacksmithing also, like to make swords and?
No, not in second edition. I mean, in second edition you had non-weapon proficiencies, but I don't even remember the rules for crafting in second edition. They never came up. Like, I never played a second edition game that got that far.
Well, it's just a weird concept to be like, okay, so you're immersed in this fantasy world, and the one thing that this like magical items requiring you to use is effectively life force. Like, and you're like, yeah, but it's like I don't want to do that. Like, that sounds evil. Well, no, it's a rod of magic missile. It's not evil. Yeah, but you're telling me I have to use life force to make it? Like, it just seems immediately bad.
Almost any other RPG, it's almost like the time you spend to make something sometimes even gives you experience. Yeah.
It's the experience of going through like the metaphorical or the 80s time skip of music of I'm crafting and failing and then this time it worked and then this time it's a little bit better and then it's gonna take a couple of tries to get it right, but like you have a general concept.
Maybe introducing something like
gotta
a higher
have a
cost.
montage.
Yeah, exactly. It's the montage. Yeah, it's a montage is what I always imagined it was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be like you instantly make it the first try, but it also wasn't like I am losing my soul to make this spatula. Like, why?
Crafting is a trained thing. I always felt that maybe they should just increase the cost to increase this trained skill versus having such a cost that just you actually doing the craft. Like it should, I feel like it should take more to put ranks in it more than it should drain you literally to make something. Yeah, I just think I think the additional cost is in the wrong place.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And also, for those of you who don't know, you have to take a feat to craft stuff. Like, you want to craft wondrous item, you have to take a feat. You want to craft arms and armor, you have to take a feat. You want to brew potions, you have to take a feat. You want to make wands, you have to take a feat. You want to craft rods, all right? Just fucking rods. Like,
it's crazy.
There's enough feats to like create a new class of just artisan who just make shit.
Which is what they did. They made the artificer later, but I mean, the artificer is insane in 3.5. I mean, it's so crazy.
Because you took all the crafting feats and put them into a character. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Like that. Yeah.
It's like, what is it in 5e now? Like, you have the cleric of the forge.
Well, they have an artificer in 5e also.
They also have they have the artificer, but they also have a cleric of the forge that allows you to do a lot of stuff. Also, like, there's a lot of things they've done later on to make people more apt to actually craft.
Well, 3.5 crafting. 3.5 crafting though is like at most just like, hey guys, you want to make that? Cool. It's gonna cost this much, and you gotta talk yourself into it. Like, so it's not that. So 3.5 isn't like, it's really much more like a slap on the wrist when it's crafting, which is fine. I have no problem with that. Crafting doesn't have to be like as penalizing as 3.5 is, but I think once again, like, Magic Item Compendium, the items that they had in this, like, I could sacrifice some life for some of these items. Like, I would understand if it said, but like, I don't feel like experience is the right word to use. Like you said, it's probably been placed in the wrong area, is what it really is. But like, I do feel like there are some items I would give Life Force for if it required me to do that. It should just say that in the print instead of being like, you're gonna lose experience. Be like, you lose 20 HP for the next week. Like, okay, well, guys, like, I have leprosy. Don't touch me for the next 6 days. Like, I'm fine with that for like a crowd.
Yeah, but I think I believe the penalty, like the experience penalty, is you want to like, oh, I want to create something that's really awesome that I want to put points into. Like, it becomes quite a bit of experience you lose for some of the bigger items.
But you're also talking about like in the scope of it, when you're like level 15, if you're trying to craft a Rod of Wonder or something, you're probably spending like 100,000, 200,000 experience, probably 500,000 gold. But those things are probably something you have a lot of at that moment anyways. It's just, you don't want it, it's just a lot. It's a lot. You know what I mean? Like, it took you a lot to get that experience, and not that you don't have it to give. You just don't want to give it because you're like, man, I don't know. Like, that was 12 sessions. Like, it was like, that was a dragon, 6 fire giants. I had to save a bunch of old people. I had to talk my way through a school. Like, there's all these things that probably happened that you're like, I don't know if I want to give up that experience for like this Rod of Wonder, even though you know that Rod of Wonder is going to kick ass. You know it will, but
you work at a job for 7 years, you're looking for a new job, and it's like, actually, you only have 2 years of experience. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
Like, you remember that Rod of Wonder you made?
Exactly. I misplaced that thing on the bus. What do you mean? Oh, you misplaced it on a bus? That's unfortunate. Yeah, I'm just gonna erase this off your resume.
Well, it's like, also when you talk about, like, we were talking about how for wizards and sorcerers, crafting rods and wands and stuff is something to help keep yourself prepared for any situation. On that side, though, is like, yeah, you can craft them and know exactly what you're going to find, but also, instead of spending your experience, you can be like, okay, well, I've just got gold. Let me go around in these, in larger cities and shop for whatever I can find. So you have that option where you're not spending it, and that, for most casters, that's going to become a way better option. Like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to find something random. I'm going to go into the shop, steal a berry for a pseudo dragon or something. I don't know. Like, you're just going to do whatever you can instead of expending. You're just going to do what you can instead of expending the experience. Like, that's the one thing that's going to level you up as a spellcaster. Leveling is the one thing that's going to save you, because at early levels you're so squishy that it's ridiculous. So you want those levels to get high enough so you don't die every 2 seconds.
D4 hit points.
Yeah, that's rough. That's why I picked an alternate feat when I picked sorcerer. I was like, no.
And on
I don't want
that, Steve, because like I played a sorcerer one time a really long time ago, but he died in the first round of combat, first session. And then I spent the entire rest of that campaign playing his familiar, who was a snake, who here on page 52 of the PDF means that the master gets a +3 bonus on bluff checks. The master's dead, so yeah. But I would be interested in hearing, Steve, your kind of experience of playing a sorcerer in 3.5 recently, because you're the only one of us who has played one, up to more than second level.
Yeah, so when I picked my sorcerer, I was like, okay, I don't really normally play spellcasters, so I was like, I'm gonna play a spellcaster, but I wanted something more versatile than a wizard. Being able to pick your spells as you go, like what you're gonna cast out, what you know, was a lot easier. But I did not like the thought of being as squishy as I would have been, which is why I picked the alternate thing, because I didn't want to die immediately, to be a battle sorcerer, which allows me to take the base attack bonus of clerics, the hit dice of clerics, gives me access to one-handed martial weapons and stuff like that, and allows me to actually wear light armor with no spell failure chance. So that, I think, is actually one reason I may have actually survived even last game, is because I have that option to wear armor, and I have more hit dice because it gives you the hit dice of a cleric instead of the D4, which I think it gives me. I think it's a D8, which doubling your hit dice alone, like the die, is such a huge advantage for his playing so far. And like I said, I've only played him like 2 games now.
What's the basic human
And,
block
I mean, I
in the
was-
monster manual have HP wise?
Oh, the basic human
20.
monster manual, it's like a D8, I believe. I think it's like a challenge rating 1/4.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but like just being able, like, I mean, even that still, even with having that D8 as my hit dice to the D4, our first game I went down the first session I played, I went down twice
Yeah, this
and ended that session at 1 HP.
yeah. I'm really glad that you lived, but yeah, this 3.5, if you play the monsters smartly in 3.5, it can get really deadly really fast. But I wanted to kind of dwell on the sorcerer for just a minute here, because it's like one of my favorite classes. Like I really love the 3.5 bard. I played it for a long time. I just absolutely love that class. It's got a special place in my heart. But the sorcerer, I also really like. But when you get down to like the backgrounds here on page 53, just check this out. This is just some weird stuff thrown in there. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, this might have just been like page filler, because I don't really feel like anyone would find this particularly useful. Like when you look at the backgrounds here, this is like sorcerers have no sense of identity as a group. Unlike wizards, they gain little by sharing their knowledge and have no incentive to work together.
That's what I want to hear in a party game.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, bye then. That, I don't know. Like, what do I do with that?
I wonder what does it say for the rogue? Because you feel like the rogue would do that also, right? Like,
yeah, let's go look
Yeah,
at.
but one thing,
The
though,
rogue says
so
they
when you
hate
think about
working with
rogue-
other people and love it too because it's necessary.
Yeah,
see,
like,
okay, so
rogues understand it though. Like that's one thing. Rogues, though, when you think about it, there's always like the rogue outfits that are always in cities that have hierarchies. Like they're still working together.
I just realized rogues are just, sorcerers are just rogues who gain magic powers, so they're just Aladdin, right? If Aladdin's like, nah, I just want to be a sorcerer. Like, yeah, make me like Jafar. Like, it's exactly what happened. It was all sorcerers are. They're like, yeah, no, all the spells I need is like, make money, get bread.
Except for they don't want to work with anyone at all, ever.
I mean, honestly, like, do rogues really? The rogues say they only because it's necessary. If they had magic, it really wouldn't be necessary. So you're a sorcerer at that point. Like,
But they do have magic because they use magic item.
oh, I mean, that's true. So, dude,
Yeah,
what
they do.
I mean, is it that they're magic or they're just innate at understanding how to like tinker with things, even if they are magic?
No, like they study this stuff. They're kind of like Indiana Jones. Who was it? I was reading some Clark Ashton Smith recently, and like Clark Ashton Smith, like all of his characters are Indiana Jones, basically. And like I really like Gary Gygax said that he didn't read Clark Ashton Smith, but I don't believe that. And like I kind of feel like the D&D Rogue is very much based on like a lot of the works of Clark Ashton Smith. So like these guys, they're just like they're Indiana Jones. You know, they're like, yeah, I'm a professor, but during the summer, I'm just gonna F off to like, you know, some backwoods temple in the middle of nowhere, and I'm gonna look for the lost spatula of Nebuchadnezzar, and that's what I did with my summer. And like, yeah, it's kind of weird, but like they also put in like the rogues are the ones who put in the work to find out about this stuff. Like they're the rogues are the closest thing to like an investigator in Call of Cthulhu, I think. Like if you were gonna run a Call of Cthulhu game in 3.5, it would kind of be best to be all like bards and rogues, and maybe like a lore master.
Yeah, I can see that one.
I've never played Call of Cthulhu, but I heard it's even easier to die.
Oh yeah.
It depends on who the DM is. I don't like to kill players in Call of Cthulhu. I would rather them
Torture them.
Like you know, by increments. But yeah, Call of Cthulhu is pretty cool. I don't know anything about the more recent editions. Like I'm like 2 editions removed from Call of Cthulhu, so like I don't know anything about the more recent ones. I would really like to do a pulp Cthulhu game one day. That would be really fun, or a Delta Green game. Do you guys know about Delta Green?
I do not know about Delta Green.
I have no idea what you're talking
No.
about.
Delta Green is a game where you play like a paramilitary group, and the paramilitary group knows about the mythos and knows about Cthulhu, and so you're kind of like the last line of defense. So like you never want to get called out to a job really, because it like yeah, you might have flamethrowers and rocket launchers and stuff, but like you're going up against Cthulhu, so
It's not. Yeah.
It's funny. There's a book series that's actually kind of like that I've actually have read through most of.
Is it Cloverfield? Because that's kind of what J.J. Abrams' Cloverfield sounds like.
No, so it's a book series called Monster Hunter International, and it's like about a non-military group, but that hunts monsters. But then there's the government who also does this and that hates everyone else that does it. But like the underlying story is like all the other creatures are real, but then there's like the big evil in all of it is like the Cthulhu-esque like creature that's trying to destroy all of reality. It's really good.
As we kind of move on towards the wizard, it looks like I just realized the sorcerer doesn't get any of these bonus feats. Is that normal?
Yeah, no, that's what I was talking about. The sorcerer, yeah, they get nothing. They get familiar, and then spells. They get nothing else.
I don't understand what the trade-off is.
You know, I know we
There's
kind of
not.
started at Ranger and went through, but you guys do remember we didn't do Bard
Sure.
to Ranger. We just jumped to Ranger, right?
Oh yeah, we didn't finish off Druid really either, did we?
well, really, like what I kind of wanted to do is I really only wanted to do like the classes that we all had experience with. So like Justin, you had experience with the Rogue. Steve, you're doing a sorcerer now. Your previous guy was a Hexblade. Nason, your previous guy was a Stonechild fighter, dragon disciple, sorcerer. So,
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, I played barbarian once. Also, he got turned to a sword.
That is true. But like, I don't know, like Nason, what do you think? Because you're not playing like a base class in the game that we're playing right now. You're playing a soul knife.
That's correct. Correct.
Is
I
it-
mean,
is that- but like, what do you think? Like, what's your
I honestly feel like the soul knife. It doesn't feel like the caster class that the other scions feel like. So that's where the kind of the separation of that is, because I think even the psionic fighter might have access to power points to use towards like
They do.
specialized abilities.
they
Soul
do?
Knife-
Yeah.
The soul knife actually
Because
doesn't.
yeah, I actually looked at them whenever I was going to cross class. I was like, do I pick up this since we're dealing with a second campaign? But I said no.
Yeah, and well, the thing that's weird about it is that the soul knife, though you would think, and they even kind of like mentioned it, that it kind of plays like a rogue. It's not. Doesn't have like the skill set to be a rogue. It doesn't have like the sneak attack bonuses to be a rogue. It really is just the psychic warrior, but with a specialized set of abilities that I felt like they wanted to give to a character, but they didn't know how to give to them, which is like Cloud's Omni Slash. It's a level 10 ability, and it's literally Omni Slash. Like, you separate your blade into multiple blades, and it attacks this target from numerous directions, right? So I feel like somebody was like, I want to make this an ability. And they're like, well, you can't make that in a feat because that'd be crazy. So it's like, okay, we'll make a class for it. And I kind of feel like that's what the Soul Knife was made from. But
Was it a soldier first class?
it's almost kind of feels like something like that. It's it feels very much of a fighter, is what it feels like. It feels like
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. The positives that I will say about the soul knife, because the soul knife is a really cool class. But the positives that I'll say about it is that it's a rogue that can sneak attack things that rogues can't sneak attack. And we didn't talk about this in the rogue section, but if you run up against something that's immune to sneak attack as a rogue,
yeah, that's undead and oozes. Yeah, that is true. That's true. I'm not gonna. That's very accurate.
that kind of thing. But also I don't have the book in front of me right now with the soul knife in it, but I was reading through it and I was literally like, I think at one point I literally burst out laughing because it was like, there are like 3 different abilities that you get within levels 1 to 5 that just say you have a soul knife. And and one of them was like, yeah, well, you can sunder the soul knife if you want to, but then they can just recharge the soul knife. And the other one's like, yeah, the soul knife, if dispelled, they can just reach it. So there's like 4 different things that just say you have a soul knife.
I very much feel like the soul knife was that Ranger RP dream you were talking about, because once again, it doesn't have all the mechanics of the Scion. You look through the rest of the Psionic handbook, all the Scions are crazy. They're all crazy.
They're
Psionic,
insane.
yeah, like if you had to like compare level 10 through 20 wizards and sorcerer spells to like 7 through 15 of psionic abilities is absolutely just outstanding to like it just crushes a lot of those abilities, and they're almost just mirrors of most of them, but like you get them at different levels, and like a lot of them, like you said, affect creatures that aren't usually affected by abilities that are like the normal, like fire or ice or lightning. But the soul knife just has that. It's something very weird about it. Like you said, it's just like you never want to be caught unarmed, and you're like, but yeah, I manifest it, or I can instantly manifest it, like cool cinematic style, like while I'm running. And you're like, well, that's cool. Everybody can kind of do that later on, anyways. Oh, yeah, but it says right here in my character I can do it right now. And it's like, well, you can make it look like a bastard sword if you use it with 2 hands. Oh, that's cool. But like by that time, somebody probably already found a bastard sword. You could probably just like I've had the option to use a regular weapon that does more damage to my soul blade does, and that's kind of where like the
theoretical. Like the thing about soul knife is when you read through the soul knife, it seems really weird until you put it all together.
True.
And when you put it all together, because like there's this really weird, and I just when I was reading through it, I thought this was just stupid. I thought it was just dumb. I was like, why can't you just do that anyway? And the thing that I'm talking about here is this is like a level 18 ability. like a
Oh, yeah.
ability
Yeah.
in the
I
soul
know,
knife.
God.
And it says you can throw your soul knives as daggers and they just come back to you and you can, throw them. And I was like, you
Yep.
couldn't do that anyway.
Yep. Yep. Because like you get them where you can throw them, but you don't get them where they'll return. And I'm like, can't you just instantly manifest them? They're like, nah. I'm like, okay, okay. Well, if you say so, like, if you say so, like, that's completely what I'm saying. Like, it's very weird because I feel like it's made for cinematic moments and not as much as like, here's your bonus feat, here's your, invulnerability to this, and here's this. It's mostly like, here's these cool looking abilities that are going to do really cool stuff at weird times, but they're not always applicable to everything. Because you do get those like weapon enhancements where they're just weapon enchants, I guess, that you can just put on your weapon. All of them are great, all of them are wonderful, but once again, super niche. Because if you hit like a zombie that doesn't have a brain, it's not going to do anything to a zombie. The zombie's going to be like, you taste like food, and so it's not going to really matter to those things. But it's really awesome to still have.
That is true, but it's really cool to have a rogue and a soul knight in the same party. Because another thing to note is that you do get those extra skill points, which is really cool. But then also, your like a rogue gets extra D6s, a soul knight gets extra D8s.
True,
which is kind of cool. True. So I mean, it's really cool to have those two in the same party, and I think that like they work really well together. And I think you guys have been doing great. Like for the most part, you haven't died yet, and the one person who has died,
for the most part,
dude, and she was playing so smart that game. She was. I didn't want to do it like this.
Oh,
she was doing so great.
The thing is that I absolutely admire about her characters is that every time she's like, I'm gonna play this range character, and then she's like, I'm in their face. I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? Because they need to see the barrel of my gun. This ain't Pulp Fiction. Like, you don't got plot armor. That doesn't work that way around here. You need an amulet to say plot armor if you can have plot armor.
I mean, they make point blank shot us for a reason.
Well, that was her. Actually, an amulet of plot armor did drop for her. I just put it on instead.
Oh.
It's
an
the
amulet
truth.
of plot armor and a wand of.
It was pretty magical, but yeah, no, completely.
But in her defense, that wasn't. I mean, she was playing super smart that session. Like she was doing so flipping well. But she was an aquatic character, and there was a priest of a fire deity that could turn aquatic stuff. So she got turned, and she had to run, and she had to, like she didn't have a choice in that, and she ended up in a really bad situation, and she, died. And that was just really, I was like, I didn't want that to happen.
Well, I mean, on the same turn of that, like, we've all played these different characters so far, but and I know she's not here, but like you've played a bard before. Like, what is your point of view on the bard being like the rogue, the non-combat rogue, right? Because we were talking about like a magical rogue, and rogues having like magic, and you'll be able to use magic items, but like bards are really the like magic rogue, right? Like they have all the skills. I do all the same trickery like stuff, but I give bonuses instead of like sneak damage, right? That's kind of like the trade-off.
The 3.5 bard, I believe, in my personal opinion, is the greatest. So maybe like not as much as the first edition bard, because like the first edition bard, you had to be a fighter, then you had to be a druid, then you had to be a cleric, then you had to be a rogue, and then you could qualify to be a bard. Then you had to like train for years to be a bard, and then you just like, whatever. But the third edition bard, people, the bard is kind of the butt of the joke a lot of the time. There's this really great comic up, Order of the Stick. If you listeners at home haven't read it, it's fantastic. It's written by a guy named Rich Burlew. It's amazing. There's a really stupid bard in that comic series that's like just always doing dumb bard stuff, and it's great. But the bard in 3.5 is insane. let's just look at what you get here as a bard. Okay, you get just from day one, like absolute day one. And yeah, I think it was weird that they changed the gnome favorite class to bard in 3.5. I really think it should have been illusionist, but still, look at this. All right, you get bardic music, bardic knowledge. That's flipping cool. Bardic knowledge, maybe the best skill in all of D&D.
Second it.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
around, you're just walking around and
I heard a song about that once.
it's so amazing, man. Like there's like, oh, what's this? And like I found this sword. I'm like, oh man, that's totally the sword of Lesplactlatron, the Destructinator. Yeah, man, he was alive like 2,000 years ago. Sword's been lost for a long time. I guess that's what that is. It's just and so like check this out. Like so, yeah, you start off without any level 1 spells in 3.5. You get some cantrips, but see, this is the weird thing about the bard. Look at it. This is super weird. So second level bard, you don't get any spells, but you do if you have a high charisma, which you do. So you get a spell.
Yeah,
But like, look at it. You get bardic music. So you know what is bardic? I mean, look at all those class skills. Look at all those class skills.
Oh, completely. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they're all the skills are there. They're the rogue of all these abilities on top of bardic knowledge, being like, oh, did I mention I also heard this in a song once? Like what? Like
yeah,
like,
if Nadia didn't exist, I was gonna play a bard.
yeah, like it's absolutely insane. Like you're correct. Which I don't. It's one of those things which we'll get to when we get to spells. But the whole like 0 level spells, but it's because there's bonus spells as an option. Like it's to counterbalance it. I think it's kind of silly to give something 0 spells because once again, yeah, the level 2 bard gets nothing if you have a high charisma, but you actually only get 2 will saves and an attack based bonus is all you get at level 2, right? And 1 cantrip is the only upgrade you're getting. Like that's a pretty upsetting level 2 for a class that honestly has some interesting abilities. It's not like they're overpowered or too strong. Bardic knowledge is amazing.
I disagree. I think they're extremely overpowered.
Really?
Like, yeah, look at just look. So the thing about the bard is the bard and the rogue are very similar in the sense that if you use them correctly, and if your DM puts in situations for you to use them, which I always do, they are just insane. Like, yeah, you got bardic knowledge, that's awesome. And I really appreciate here on page 28 of the player's handbook that it's got these DCs for like the type of knowledge that you would know. Like that's a really good guideline. But let's just look at this. Okay, number 1, you get bardic music. That's cool. +1 to attack and damage. That's awesome. Just got to have 4 ranks to perform. This one, nobody uses this. I put in so many opportunities to use this in my game, thinking that our bard in the party would use it, but they didn't. Countersong, man. You like if there's a sonic attack or like a sound burst or a command spell or like some kind of auditory thing that's messing with people, you're a bard. You can just countersong. You just play over it.
I want to say that when we ran into somebody singing, I suggested a battle of the bands and nobody countersonged. I was very surprised.
I also was. I was kind of hoping that would happen.
Well, I feel like once again though, like that's also a deep. Like you have to go through these abilities and be like, oh, that's what that's used for, because they're so unique of abilities. Though, of course, we know what counterspell is. Like, yeah, like the bard's list of abilities is insane. It's just such a long list of abilities. They're neat abilities.
But then, like, that's not even all you get. You get, like, day 1, you get Fascinate. And I am, you know, I will preach for Fascinate all day, every day. I used it a lot when I was playing a bard. Recently, I was playing the Temple of Elemental Evil, the computer game, And there's this like super powerful wizard that you can fight near the end of the game, and I just fascinated him. That's it. That's all I did. It was like, it's gonna be this big fight, and we're gonna, and I was just like, fascinate. Moving on. And you can do that, and then once you get higher level, once they're fascinated, you can suggest, which means you can just tell somebody what to do. Then, once you get to 9th level, you can inspire greatness. Look at that. You're getting +2 competence bonus to attack rolls, +1 on fortitude saves. You're getting 2d10 bonus hit die to your hit points.
Jesus.
Just for having a bard along. And that's without any of the story stuff. That's without any of the bardic knowledge. That's without any of the identify stuff. That's without any of the spells. And bards get amazing spells. And like later, you get Song of Freedom. All right, somebody gets paralyzed. You can just go, you're not paralyzed anymore. And they're not paralyzed.
Why did 5e like not butcher, they didn't butcher, but they like hamstrung them so much.
They wanted to give bards more of a offensive ability because they want people to play bards, because people were making, like he said before, the joke of bards, where bards are like, I'm just a sex machine jukebox. And they're really not. Like
Which is not, it's not untrue.
It's not untrue, but they're like, that jukebox is a toolbox, if anything, of unlimited abilities that really have all these different uses. It's pretty great, is what it comes down to.
So we're going to kind of transition into the winding down portion of the show here. Like, I don't think that any of us have ever played a cleric in 3.5.
No,
I think I did. No, was that a
follower.
Pathfinder game?
No,
I had the follower, but I think I also what was it when we played the the campaign where we had like split 2 different classes at the same time with Josh. I think that was actually Pathfinder.
Oh, that was
The Gestalt game. Oh, actually, on that note, I actually just yesterday went back to check out my character in that game, because we were playing like 16th level Pathfinder Gestalt characters, and I was like, because I wanted to maybe touch on this. That guy got 12 attacks per round.
Yeah, it gets ridiculous.
And they were all different, and they just had all this other stuff. So, like, you know, I think 3.5 is really that game where they were like, okay, you know, you can get up to about 12, but if you go after that, just nah, dude. It's too much math. But I know that Steve, you did have a cleric follower in our old 3.5 game.
Yeah, pretty much. I picked them up because no one wanted to play any type of healer at all.
Which is an awful travesty, because we should have known that clerics don't have to be healers, guys. We should have realized that way long time ago.
No, cleric spells are ridiculous.
I do love that every time I've had a friend who played a healer, I'm like, everybody's like, thank God we have a cleric. Someone can heal, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm the cleric of the war god, blah, blah, blah. And they're just fucking brutal ass.
Where's Nerul at? I need them.
And they somehow become a better paladin than a paladin, and just.
Oh, yeah, man. But like, also, clerics in 3.5, they can spontaneously heal. So they don't have to pair healing spells.
Nope.
You
pair whatever you want, and then you stack a spell to heal.
Yeah, just like druids can do with summon animal. They summon animals or whatever it is. But before we kind of start wrapping up, are there any classes that you guys wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to really go over?
Oh, actually, I think at this point we've pretty much talked about everybody but Barbarian and Fighter. But Fighter we touched on a lot during our comparisons. with Ranger and Rogue and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think I can touch on fighter right now. A fighter is a fighter.
Yeah.
He fights.
He fights.
Yep.
Well, I feel like if we pick back up, I would like to go a little deeper dive into the cleric because
We didn't really talk about Paladin either.
But I was gonna say, yeah, the cleric and the paladin have a lot of their divine abilities that I would like to just touch on, mostly like rebuke and the smite abilities. But that's something we can pick back up on next time, and then finish off the barbarian also, because it's the barbarian. I feel like the barbarian has to be talked about, and the monk. Like, come on, it's
Forgot about the monk. The monks are so awesome too.
Yeah.
I really like the monks and the barbarians. Let's kind of just jump into the barbarians real quick for just a minute, because I love the concept of the barbarian. Look at Crust there. Look at him. Look how crazy he is. It's just crazy. Look at him.
That's to carry arrows on your leg like that is inefficient.
He's just like, I got arrows. Like, dude, like, when are you going to use a bow, man? Come on.
I mean, to be fair, the other guy literally had 1,800 belts.
Wait. You're saying that, but he actually has an arrow on a bow and arrow on his back.
He does, but when does he use it?
Barbarian, okay, wait, don't barbarians, like, aren't they proficient at throwing and stuff inside 5e, in 3.5, I mean? Like arrows, aren't they proficient with using bow and arrows and stuff?
Yeah, like, I know, like, when we were running the Red Hand of Doom, a lot of those hobgoblins, they were barbarians, and they used javelins. They just, like, run up and, like, hit you with javelins, and then the people behind them, like, with the great axes would rush in after that, and then they, like, try to cut you down.
Homeboy literally just duct taped a dagger to his forearm.
He actually, it's a dagger with an iPhone under it, and then...
For those of you following along at home, page 25 of the player's handbook PDF, like, Rusk is just...
He's ridiculous.
He's
pretty crazy. Although, like, you know, again...
It's a good drawing, though. Good job, Fish, but, you know...
Yeah, definitely. But, like, a lot of the cool concepts that we have nowadays of, like, the iconic characters, that kind of came about in 3.5, like, or 3.0. Like, I don't remember iconic characters being a thing in second edition and before. But we have them now. You know, we have them in Starfinder, we have them in Pathfinder second edition. We might have them in Pathfinder. I don't know. But I think they're cool. Like, they even got novels.
There are some in Pathfinder. I've seen them featured in a lot of the books and board games and crap like that.
Oh, that's cool. Like, I actually read way back in the day. I actually read one of I think it was Regdar's Armor. Like, they wrote novels for each of the iconic characters, and they were like 150 pages. You know, they weren't much, but they were interesting little reads. And I actually read one of those. I thought it was pretty okay for what it was.
Which, I mean, you mentioned iconic characters, but if I'm not mistaken, like, Greyhawk and Greyhawk's design in general had a huge influence. Like, the type of influence that you'd say, like, Forgotten Realms would have had on 4 and 5. Like, Greyhawk was a huge influence on 3 and 3.5, wasn't it?
I think so. I mean, like, Monty Cook and Skip Williams, like, those guys have been... You know, I believe those guys may very well have met Gygax himself. Like, I don't know that, but I think they were kind of going in a lot of those same circles. And yeah, like, especially the deities. A lot of the deities from Greyhawk made it into the PHB.
Yeah.
When we get to the deity section, like Saint Cuthbert, you know, like Ayuz doesn't make his way into this book, but Vecna does, of course, and everybody loves Vecna. Like, Vecna's super flipping cool now. But
he's number one.
Yeah, he's such a cool villain. I love him so much. Like, I've been using him for 20 years, and you know, I mean, his name is an anagram of one of my favorite fantasy authors, Jack Vance. Like, yeah, man, like, there's definitely a Greyhawk influence on 3.0 and 3.5, I think.
It's one of those I didn't really, because like you kind of took it for granted. Is that like in 4 and 5, it's almost like the popularity of Forgotten Realms had taken over to where it was just like ingrained in it so much, and you get back to 3.0 and 3.5. I'm like, oh man, this is a different world. Like literally, it's, it's
Oh yeah, man. And I've got some cool Gygaxian stuff to throw at you guys later. So you might dig it, you might not. We'll see. But I think you guys are going to dig it. But on that note, I think we'll pretty much call it here for today. And next time we might jump in. We might say a little bit about the barbarian, a little bit about the paladin. But we're basically going to be moving on to skills and feats and all the crazy stuff that goes along with that. So, do you guys have any kind of last parting words before we leave off today?
that elf in the wizard session kind of looks like a long-haired Nicolas Cage.
You got just page 69. Okay. For those of you following along at home, I'm sorry, we just skipped to page 69, and there's this picture of Josanne the cleric just stepping on Krusk's face to climb a mountain. It's so amazing. Oh man, skill synergies. That's going to be a fun one to tackle when we tackle that one.
Oh, feats in general will be fun. There's just so much in the feat section.
Absolutely. And so with that, I think we'll go ahead and call that there for today. So I've been Cliff. I've been joined by Justin, Nason, and Steve. And I think in next episode, we will actually kind of start telling you guys where you can find us on the social medias and whatnot if you would like to do that.
Oh yeah.
But for right now, I will see you guys next time. And this has been part 3 of our Player's Handbook read through, and we'll be mostly talking about skills and feats next time. So
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Later.